Hey there, everybody! Welcome to our review of NCIS Season 19, Episode 21, the finale. Birds of a feather, here we are,
Oh,
sticking
okay.
together to discuss what is a very crazy, intense, cliffhangery episode of this show.
Very, very good episode of the show. I really enjoyed this cliffhanger a lot.
Yeah, they waited a long time to give us like a big Alden Parker story. I'm guessing they were afraid of like doing too much too soon with him, that people would think, "Oh, they're trying to replace Gibbs." But guess what? It was worth the wait. Like I really enjoyed this a lot as well.
Yeah, I think that that's exactly why they waited for as long as they did to bring us this big Parker episode. And even still, they still brought up Gibbs in this episode. And we're going to talk a little bit about why they're continuing on with, Gibbs rules, even though Gibbs isn't here anymore. And why is Gibbs still in the credits, even though Gibbs is not here anymore? Like, what are they doing that they're sort of holding on to Gibbs, but letting him go, but not really?
Before we go further, of course, be sure to hit that subscribe button. I know that NCIS is over for the season, but there is so much stuff we are doing at the channel. I
Mm,
mean, we've got Better Call Saul tonight. We have the This
yeah.
Is Us finale. Obi-Wan Kenobi is on Friday, and we are very, very excited about that.
We would also really appreciate it if you guys went over to our Instagram. If you happen to be on
Yeah.
Instagram, we are Matt and Jess TV. If you would go to our Instagram and give us a follow, if you like pictures of bunnies, dogs, cats, we have lots of them and we have some new ones up over there. And it would mean a lot to us if you did that for us.
Absolutely. Very, very wholesome channel full of fun and happy things.
Okay, let's begin with the Gibbs of it all because for a long time I was suspecting that Gibbs was going to return in this finale in some way, shape, or form, a phone call, show up, something, but he didn't. And I'm gonna say that I still want Gibbs to come back in some shape or form, even if he doesn't come back full time. There's still more story to tell with him, even if he comes back in on this new Raven arc that's out or something like that. But we needed this episode for just Parker because we've gotten to know tiny bits about him, but not really a lot. And in this episode, we learned a lot.
I will admit that I still thought Gibbs was showing up until about 5 minutes out from the end of this episode. And then I was like, oh, I guess they're not doing it. Like, I had it in my head that, all right, obviously Parker, he's in a really bad place at the moment. The FBI is after him. He's got all these sort of focuses that are being put on him, that the team's going to call Gibbs. He's up in Alaska and he's going to be like, I'll be right back. And then he's going to hang up because Gibbs doesn't want to stay on the phone longer than that. And then he just like shows up at the end.
And I'm glad that they didn't do that. Gibbs doesn't always need to come in and bail everyone out. And it's good to see that the team was able to sort of come together when they were all standing, in Casey's lab and kind of like, oh, Parker's kind of trying to push us all away and to be like, I can do this on my own. And all of them kind of recounting the times that Parker has been there for them and what he's done for them and how they are not going to just back off and let him take the fall for a bunch of stuff he didn't do.
And he was even there for Gibbs. Like, he's one of the big reasons Gibbs can even be out in Alaska doing whatever it is that he is doing. But, before we really navigate too far away from Gibbs, let's talk about this opening credits thing for a minute here, because I feel like there are a lot of people, at times even myself included, who kind of took him being there as a sign that, okay, he's going to come back. He'll be on the show again at some point this season. But, CBS, Kelly Cal, who's like their entertainment president, he had said to TV Line in a new story that basically they kept Mark Harmon there because of how they put it. It is a transition year for the show. I still kind of feel like they kind of wanted Gibbs to remind sort of people that he was around, because I think it would have been too harsh a transition for fans to not see him there, and they just didn't want to make people sad.
I think that that's part of it. Sort of the same with Ducky. We have Ducky in the credits
Yeah.
every single episode, and he's maybe in like 3 episodes a year, but he still like has a pretty prominent place in the credits, even though he's not really on the show anymore, like, here and there. But with Mark Harmon, it makes sense. You know, he was in 4 episodes at the beginning of this.
Yeah.
And contractually, I mean, for those of you who don't know, I used to work in film. I've dealt with a lot of contracts. And one of the things that's in contracts is credits, where you show up, sort of what the card will be like. Is it just like, you know, with Mark Harmon or introducing Edward Furlong or whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
Like, I don't think contractually they can take him out of the credits. It's probably he's got it in his contract. Now, can the network confirm this? Probably not. Contracts are private. So they can't just come out and be like, listen, we signed a contract with him, you know, and this is why he's in it. It'll be interesting to see next season if he's still in the credits or not.
Yeah, I'm really fascinated about that. And I think him being in the credits, it doesn't dictate whether or not Mark will come back. I still think there's always going to be a chance for him to come back. The door is open. Now, okay, the ending of this episode, this is time for me to put on my proverbial dunce cap here and make an admission. I didn't see this coming. Like, I know I should have seen this coming. I'm sure a lot of people probably did see this coming, but I really didn't think his ex-wife was involved in any of this.
I did not either.
Okay, I'm not alone.
No, I was really, really surprised. I mean, I will say this. There was a moment when they were at his apartment that I thought that he and her were somehow involved in this, because I was kind of like, it's a little convenient that she was able to, like, you know, get out of the ropes, climb out a vent, and just show up at Parker's place. And I was kind of like, that just seems a little like, the team has showed up and here's the ex-wife. I was kind of like, this is suspicious, but at the same time, you know, Parker hasn't been that open with anyone, so I'll let that slide.
I guess the reason I probably should have seen this coming a little bit in my head is just, you know, like, Terry Polo was on, like, Meet the Parents, you know, a big day movie. She was on The Fosters. Like, she's a reasonably well-known enough actress. And we've gone over this sort of theory before on this show and, you know, The Blacklist with Fisher Stevens this season and other places where if you're getting a person of a decent-sized name, they're probably going to want a pretty good story. Like, upon reflection, this totally makes sense. And yet, there I was just thinking, oh, look at these two. They're running away together to try to figure out who's responsible for all of this. Look at you guys. You can make it work again.
Okay, so here's where we're going to kind of talk about what her motivation could be. Because I really was at the end of the episode when they kind of revealed that, you know, the Raven is behind all this and the Nevermore was, you know, up on the wall at the vet's office to sort of give that, you know, hey, I'm back. And we saw an episode about this person before as well, where they kind of sent a note to the whole team to basically be like, you guys are all in trouble. And I was like, oh, okay, this is something. But I just didn't get why his ex-wife would turn on him, because we even had this little sort of dialogue with her where it was like, oh, why did you guys break up? And she was like, oh, he left his dirty socks out. And she kind of mentioned that there are some things that marriages just don't bounce back from. My theory is they lost a child together. That's what I think. And I could be wrong about that, but I mean, that's something that is very difficult to bounce back from with marriages. So that's what I think it is, where maybe they just are like, we clearly don't want to talk about it, so we'll talk about his stinky socks instead.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, that's something that's very personal and very, very devastating. And, you know, Parker's pretty closed off in general, so he probably wouldn't bring it up. And I would understand why she wouldn't either.
But then why would she turn on him? Like, if this is the reason that they broke up, that's not a reason for her to then turn around and deliver Parker to who, being like, I got him, it, you know, framing him for like murder and fraud and all these things. I was like, what did he do to you? And here's where I land with this. Bear with me, guys, man, because we're going to hit a curve here. I
Ready.
think that the Raven is a cult leader and that the sort of Nevermore is all the people that are part of this cult. And I do think it has to do partially with her job because they mentioned that she's, she works for the FBI, but she works sort of in the alien division, the UFO division. I was like, that's a very specific type job. And they mentioned it multiple times. And I was kind of like, okay, so if she's going to turn on him and the FBI is kind of after him, I'm like, okay, maybe it's not necessarily the FBI that's after him, but she has access to FBI equipment and bugs and whatever that she can really get in there and sort of put the FBI on Parker as sort of a smokescreen while she actually gets Parker for whoever this cult leader is. Because I kind of think it's got to have something to do with this UFO job that she has. Maybe it's some sort of like a cult that believes that the UFOs are coming down and they're the leader kind of thing, because she has to be very smart to have the job that she has. She's
Yeah.
got to be very charismatic to be with somebody like Parker. So what's going to make her really like take a turn? I think it has to be something with the unexplained that then has made sense to her, and maybe it's whoever this Raven person is.
Whoever the Raven person has to be is somebody who is incredibly persuasive. And I sort of look at it as sort of one of these people who is able to justify to her, no matter the reason for it, that this amoral action that she's doing, betraying Parker, this man that she loved, is for a greater good, for a higher cause. And we've seen villains like this on TV before who are so diabolical that they sort of believe their own lies, and they're able to get other people on board to things that aren't in their best interest, thinking that, oh, I'm doing the right thing. Because based on what we've seen, between Parker and Terry Pablo's character, I can't fathom why she would do something thinking, okay, it is the right thing to legitimately hurt Parker, right? She has to think that either what she's doing is either going to help him in the long run, or that it's for the greater good and that it's going to help humanity or help some larger cause, whether that is, a cult, whether that is some larger organization or something like that. I think she probably thinks in her head that she is doing the right thing.
Yeah, it's also just I'm finding it that maybe whatever this cult is does have something to do with the FBI, because his ex-partner was also involved in this, and getting the same text messages, how's it going? I've got him. It's sort of like they're repeating the ritualistic type words of whatever it is that they're doing to get this together. And it's not a coincidence that they both worked or work for the FBI, and now it's all circling around Parker.
I think even just, the name, the Raven, Nevermore being written out, it's very theatrical. Like, it's clearly somebody who is, I don't want to say enjoying what they're doing, but it's somebody who enjoys the act of putting on a performance. And that to me, it either means, like a serial killer, a cult organization, somebody who wants to actually have a sort of branding behind what they do. Like, this is not your standard run-of-the-mill criminal, and that is a big part of what makes this interesting. I prefer NCIS doing stuff like this, where there's a mystery and there's sort of a weird alter ego involved, in the standard case of the week stuff by far.
There was an interesting moment that I really thought that something weird was going on with Parker. Not just that Viv showed up to his apartment and everyone was kind of there and going through everything. And I was like, this is very convenient. Then it was like, oh, there's also like all this money that's in some Cayman Island account. And Parker's kind of like, if I had all that money, like, would I be here? And I'm looking at his apartment being like, you are in a very nice apartment. Your apartment has a greenhouse in your apartment. You are doing quite well for being in NCIS. I got into the wrong job if I could have a place that looks like that.
The other question I clearly had after all of that is, I guess Gibbs did give, like, McGee that $10,000. Like, what's Gibbs doing with all of his? Because clearly, working in these positions, you can have a rooftop greenhouse that was totally baller, by the way, and Gibbs is just like in his basement building a boat.
Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, the I've always been very curious sort of about the money situation in general because like some of the apartments, like, we saw Bishop's apartment, it was like ordinary, and then you saw Nick's apartment, I'm like, whoa, there's some money in this apartment. And
Yeah.
then we saw Parker's apartment, I'm like, holy smokes, like where is all this money coming
Yeah.
from? And Gibbs is living in a more, normal house. I'm like, okay, well, they have the same job. So how is Parker balling and Gibbs is living this more simple life? He must be stuffing his money away. I even remember when we first saw Abby's house for the first time, that loft she was in, I was like, that is not cheap at all. She has money.
It's very odd. I don't know if we're ever going to get a secret lot. Maybe they need to put some disclosure forms out there on how much some of these people are making.
Like, and correct me if I'm wrong, but doesn't Tim and Delilah live in Tony's old, like, 1 or 2 bedroom apartment with, like, the 4 of them in there? It's like, how do you guys not afford a place that could, like, house everybody?
This is what I love about this episode is that like gives us all these weird questions and things to sort of think about, and like there's even a lot of little moments in this episode I really love. I am so much in on Parker's dad, by the way, who was just totally like you should have married her. And he was just like this weird curmudgeon. I don't know why. I liked him.
I was out on him.
I want more of him.
I've seen this character so many times in the past that he didn't do it for me. He just felt like kind of a recycled character. I'll say that. We're like 17 minutes in here. So if you're still listening and you don't agree, leave it in the comments. Let's talk about Knight in Shining Palmer, since we are so far in and we have not talked about that on-screen kiss. Mwah. I am so glad that they did that and they just went for it on this show, because we have all been along on these NCIS rides for so long with so many different like couplings where we get nothing and things are just like maybe happening off screen and then they kiss goodbye and somebody leaves a show. Oh, thank you for not doing that this time and just having them disclose their relationship and then have some kisses. I'm like, oh, here we are. Finally, guys. The show is growing.
This made me very, very happy.
Yeah.
Like this was a real act in restraint for us to get this far into the video without like throwing our arms up in like celebration that the ship has finally sailed. And also, I gotta say, they would not have been able to properly figure out this case were it not for Jimmy and Jessica Knight getting a little too frisky with around that plant and like knocking it over.
Yeah, I mean, they really did like stumble into some good stuff there.
See, love wins. That is the lesson that we got from this episode. And, it's going to be really fun now to see how they kind of navigate this into what's happening in season 20, because I don't think that they're going to walk away from this now. And it certainly doesn't seem like either one of them is leaving and they're doing that sort of thing here.
No, it feels like the show is really just going to come into this new sort of era where Gibbs's rules, I know they brought them up in this episode, McGee brought them up, and Parker was kind of like, meh, a what? I don't know. Because he doesn't know, because we're kind of in this new era where there are agents here that don't have a relationship with Gibbs. Half the team, we got Parker and Jess, just don't really know him all that well. So some of the rules are going out the window. No office romances, that is over, because now we've got Jess and Jimmy, which is great. Casey is with the girl from IT who we're not seeing. But I think that they can continue to make this a procedural show, and we just know that these two characters are together, and that's fine. This isn't a romance show. We're not going to see this every week.
No. I do want to see an engagement in season 20, though, right?
Oh, that's a little fast.
Make it happen. Let's do it. Okay, no.
That's way too fast. I'm fine with him dating and starting to get into a relationship. His wife has passed away a long time ago now, so he's got to get back up on the horse. He is not Frank Reagan from Blue Bloods, where he's just alone forever, but he doesn't need to get engaged that fast.
I don't know. Okay, well, I will say I was about to say Blue Bloods. NCIS, they did a very good job of at least like squelching my worst fear in this finale. And granted, I guess theoretically my worst fear could still happen, but I was really worried coming into this, especially with the Zorro news that Wilmer was going to leave in the finale and they were going to do something where he exited here, because they've known about the Zorro stuff for a little while. So they didn't write anything onto the show that means that he's leaving. Maybe that means Wilmer's staying put. Fingers crossed.
Well, maybe they're working the schedule around it. Maybe he's like, you know what? I'm just not going to take a break and we'll do some filming during the summer if we're at that point, or find a way. Or maybe, his character will take a leave of absence for, 2 months worth of episodes. I mean, stuff over at Disney Plus, we're like we said, we're covering Obi-Wan.
Yeah.
They're shorter episode counts. Just watching Boba Fett right now, it's 7 episodes. I feel like he may be able to do both depending on how many episodes they're going for.
I really hope he is. I think we can feel really good about where we are at the end of this season. I hope they do more stuff like this in season 20. I think 19 got too procedural for my liking after Gibbs left, but it's a good way to end things off here.
Yeah, this was a great finale. I had a lot of fun with it. We learned a lot more about Parker. No, all around, it was a 10 out of 10 for me. It was very, very well done.
All right, well, we are going to go and put on our mixtape and drive into the sunset.
Right.
Hopefully there's no...
With someone taking me to their cult
hopefully
leader.
there's no shocking twist at the end of this video, but okay. Hit that subscribe button. Follow us on Instagram at Matt and Jess TV. It's very fun, wholesome content over there, and we will see you here next time.